John.
OK， 我们没有想到那么多人会来啊！你们知道夏大宝不会来，知道哦？夏大宝不会来，知道哦？我不要让你失望。OK， 好。我们有2个 speaker， 现在Jee Say 跟然后各方会帮翻译。哦。
Good morning, everybody. We don't expect such a big crowd. If we had known, we would have booked a bigger place. But can you hear me? It's working. Okay. But it's a happy problem. Just some of you have to sit down on the floor. I don't know whether any more coming or not. Any more coming? If you can move more to the side, more to the side. And then we create. 我们没有想到这样多人要来。Just to we try to contact Dr. Chia, but he is not contactable. He did not reply to our email. This is I'll mention something about this in my speech. What has happened? Can you please come in further? This one move midway. Those who have got a little bit sit next to each other. Doesn't matter. Stand next to each other is okay. Closer to each other. Squeeze. Sorry. Squeeze. Okay, squeeze. The chair can squeeze a bit, or you can sit. You get 3 or 2 chairs. 3 or 2 chairs.
他不要客气啦。
3 share 2, okay? Members of the press, are you here? Members of the press, you are where are you from? 早报。有没有新评或晚报？
请把你的椅子移到前面一点点，后面比较有位置，给他们站一下。好，不要撞到他们，可以，谢谢。
There are more people coming in, so you can move further in, further up here. More than 130 people have registered saying they are coming. Normally we expect only half to turn up. Maybe a lot of you turn up. Maybe 70-80% success rate has come. And some of you have not registered and also turned up. I know some of you have not registered. But it's okay.
Okay, we shall begin now. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the press conference / forum / informal discussion on why, how, when Dr. James Gomez and Jee Say and myself decided to nominate Dr. Chia Thye Poh for the Nobel Peace Prize 2015. Jee Say will speak first. Jee Say will explain, describe how this process started earlier this year. And James will follow up, describing why we nominate Chia Thye Poh and also the workings behind the Nobel nomination process. In between, we managed to find Chok there, who's going to translate the gist of Jee Say's and James's presentations, because we didn't expect many of the whole left have come. They are a very united, strong group. By word of mouth, all of them will be mobilized. So it's a very rare occasion you actually see them. So members of the press, we want to interview some of these old warriors. I think I encourage you to do that. Some of them may be former detainees as well. So without further ado, let me pass the floor to Jee Say.
Thank you very much for coming. I see a lot of you are the older crowd, but it's good that you still remember Dr. Chia. This means a lot to you. Those who went through that period, it means a lot to you. This sort of experience cannot be passed to the next generation, but I hope they will learn from here, learn the experiences, especially those who are related, family, friends, or relatives who have suffered during this period will remember and pass the message. And I hope the younger people, even though you are not related to those who suffered, to the victims, you will pass the message along. And that is really the reason why we decided to go back to nominate Mr. Chia Thye Poh. He represented a generation, but I will explain why we chose him and not the others, not because the others are less important, but because of some administrative requirements. All right. Let me just. I didn't know that the sound system was not working until now. Okay, let me begin. I've written a speech. I want to be very correct in this historical moment. This is a historical moment, and I want it to be recorded, and I want every word to be spoken right. So I hope you will pardon me for looking at my script. It also saves me from memorizing or auto cue. We don't have money to have auto cue. How this nomination began, the nomination of Dr. Chia Thye Poh began. The process of nominating Dr. Chia Thye Poh began with my meeting with the then director of the Norwegian Nobel Institute, Professor Geir Lundestad, in September last year. His opening remark was, "We never had any nomination from Singapore. It would be nice to receive one." Unquote. I asked if Mr. Lee Kuan Yew would be worthy of consideration. He responded, "LKY advocates Asian values. We do not believe in Asian values as they are used by leaders to deny elections to the people." I told him there are elections in Singapore. He asked, "Are the elections fair?" Quote unquote. Human rights, of course, he told me something else directly about the question whether Lee Kuan Yew qualifies, but I wouldn't want to say it here because he asked me to take it out. I actually submitted my record of conversation to him and he deleted something out, okay? So, human rights are the core values of the Nobel Peace Prize. While human rights encompass political, economic, and social rights, political rights are regarded by the Nobel Committee as the most important. The more famous winners among fighters of human rights included Martyn Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and Aung San Suu Kyi. I pointed out to the good professor that when the Nobel Committee awarded the Peace Prize to Mandela, it was wrongly reported that Mandela was the longest serving political prisoner. I told him that Singapore's Chia Thye Poh was detained for 32 years, 5 years longer than Mandela's 27 years. The professor's immediate reaction was one of shock. I didn't know that. What was he detained for? What is he doing now? All these questions came out at rapid fire. So when I returned home, I posted a record of our conversation on my Facebook. James. No, earlier one. Okay. This is here is the screenshot of the Facebook posting. I noticed that the first comment was posted by Martyn C with a video on Chia Thye Poh. Martyn posted his comment on my, those who are on the Facebook, what me and Pooh. So this is the one I saw. So I immediately, here's a man who seemed to know a lot about Dr. Chia. So I arranged to meet up with him. when I suggested nominating Dr. Chia for the Nobel Peace Prize, Martyn said that he had been wanting to do so for a long time, but didn't know how to do it. I explained the process to him. I told him I had initially wanted to nominate all the detainees under the Internal Security Act in order to highlight the cruelty of the law that allowed detention without trial and inflicted great suffering on the victims. You know, I wanted to nominate all the detainees under ISA, those detained in 1963, Operation Cold Storm, and subsequent years, and those before that, and also in 1988 or 87 in Operation Spectrum 2, the so-called Marxist conspirators. So I wanted to nominate, because I want to make the point that these have suffered under a law that allows detention without trial. However, I was advised that only a maximum of 3 persons would be allowed. I can only nominate 3 persons, not more than 3. But the preference was for a single person as nominee. They say, okay, you can nominate 3, but we only consider 1. You just nominate 1 because that's their criteria. They just want 1 person so they can write a nice story about it. It doesn't mean they don't do, you know, let's say you share the peace prize, like I think they share the peace prize for the Northern Ireland peace process because there are 2-3 parties involved. So we had to nominate only a single individual in order to maximize the chances of success. But this by no means diminished the sacrifices and contribution of all other detainees. So even though you are not nominated, it doesn't mean that you did not suffer or you did not contribute to the cause. That is the point that I'm making now, alright? We don't want to promote a superhero for the sake of promoting a superhero and denying the others, the other parties, you know? It's like SG50, they only play up 1 person, all the rest not important. So Martyn understood where I was coming from and went along with it. So I explained to Martyn, this is the way it works. We either do it their way or we don't get considered. So to get the process started, we needed someone who qualified to be nominated. It's not just nominating somebody. You must make sure that he is nominated by someone who is qualified, who knows what he is doing and who he is nominating. This person could be a Nobel laureate, existing winner of a Nobel Prize. If you are existing, like, I thought of going to see Aung San Suu Kyi, but I mean, if all fails, I will go to Aung San Suu Kyi to see her. This could be a Nobel laureate, a current member of parliament, or a university professor. You know, Martyn suggested James Gomez without any hesitation. So he said, well, this is a university professor who qualifies. Not just any university professor, you must be a university professor of social science, history and all that. You can't be professor of physics or chemistry. You must be, you know what you are talking about. So Martyn suggested James without hesitation. James also has a keen interest in Dr. Chia, having interviewed him while he was still an undergraduate at the National University of Singapore. He was a second-year undergraduate and he had this interest in, and he interviewed Dr. Chia. We agreed that James would make a good nominator, okay, will satisfy all the criteria. So I don't have to go out of Singapore, go to see Aung San Suu Kyi or go and see Nelson Mandela, but he's dead. So Martyn got in touch with James, and in the weeks that followed, both worked together on a submission to the Nobel Committee. The nomination was submitted early this year. The director of the Nobel laureate confirmed that the nomination has been received and registered. And that is a very important point. You must register, that means the bona fide, satisfy all the qualifications and register the nomination. We understand that the Nobel Committee met on several occasions in the last few months to consider the nominees and will announce its decision on the winner next week on Friday, 9th October. They have a series, they have got 5 Nobel Prizes, okay? Peace Prize is 1, you have the prize for medicine, which will be announced, I think, in a few days' time. If not announced today. And then you have the Nobel Prize for physics, for chemistry, and for literature. So ours is the Nobel Peace Prize that we are fighting, we are nominating him for. With a total of 273 candidates from around the world, winning the award is not going to be easy, to put it mildly. Regardless of the outcome, the nomination of Dr. Chia Thye Poh is a victory in itself. The Nobel Peace Prize is not something that a person can apply for. You can't apply. It's not for application. Dr. Chia did not ask for this nomination. The Nobel laureate, Liu Xiaobo, did not even know about his nomination as he was in jail during the process. You know Liu Xiaobo from China, literature. He was nominated while he was in prison. So we nominated Dr. Chia, we nominated Dr. Chia, we tried to get in touch with him. He did not reply to our email. So, and we cannot reach him. Even just last week, we tried to ask him to come, but we could not reach him. So he just, we celebrate this event with a mixture of pride and sadness. We are proud of Dr. Chia and all his compatriots. Maybe some of you are around. I noticed Gong Fang is around. Maybe some of you were around. Any one of you detained under Operation Cold Storm or ISA? Please put up your hands if you don't mind. Okay, you are shy. Okay. We are proud of Dr. Chia and all his compatriots who fought for freedom and a better livelihood for their fellow citizens. We wanted Dr. Chia to join us in this celebration, but we have not been able to reach him. 32 years of imprisonment had taken a severe toll on him and his family. He has mostly kept to himself and away from the outside world that he once fiercely fought for its betterment. It is a psychological toll that is unknown and untold. We now want the world, and in particular the citizens of Singapore, to know of this personal tragedy and the huge sacrifices that he and his compatriots had made on our behalf in the early pioneering years. This is the dark side of SG50 that is totally ignored in the national narrative that this government has written and in the LKY myth that it has created. We look forward to the day when the balanced history will be written of our past. And we hope the nomination of Dr. Chia Thye Poh for the Nobel Peace Prize will open up a path for this much needed rewriting of our history. I would like to add a personal touch to this event. I do this entirely out of a sense of public duty. I do not know Dr. Chia personally, nor have I ever met him. The first time I knew of him was when I was a young boy in primary school, St. Anthony's Boys' School. He was walking through the school compound from Victoria Street to Queen Street. This is the St. Joseph's Church, it's still there. My elder brother saw him and pointing out to him, he told me, "That man is Chia Thye Poh, very smart, very young, already teaching at Nanta University, elected an MP at a very young age and fighting for the people." My elder brother, Jee there. He was in his early 20s then. He left me with a very deep impression. That impression has lasted more than 50 years. Like many great heroes of his generation, he has inspired me to seek and fight for social justice. His unbroken determination, with 32 years of imprisonment to show for, makes him truly a once in a lifetime model of inspiration. Go back to the. Yeah. And it is my great honor to play a part in the nomination of my hero for the Nobel Peace Prize. I thank Martyn and James for helping me and doing the more arduous part of the process. Thank you, Martyn and James. And thank you all for coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tong, Jee Say. Kok Fang, are you around? Can you inch your way forward so that you can help translate? Thank you. Come on.
各位，我这个小人物刚才走进来的时候呢，马丁西看到我，他就叫我说帮个忙，因为他知道我是靠这个语言来吃饭的，不然的话我就饿。所以我今天这个小人物呢，就勉为其难来跟大家把刚才这个如实的那个话，大体上的跟他翻译一下。他叫我注意最后的这几段是吗？最后的2段呢。那么他是说他从来没有见过这个太保。那么他见到太保的时候呢，是有一次他当时他还很小，他当时是在St. Anthony's 的这个 Boys School 那边读书。那么见到太保的时候呢，是有一天太保走过这个神州社学校的这个校园的时候，那么他的哥哥呢就说，哎，那个人就是太保，所以呢他就说，那个是他第一次见到太保，那么他觉得说非常荣幸，能够有这个机会见到他，但是他从来没有机会跟他讲过话，那么很重要的一点呢，就是说，我们看到这个太保在这个坐牢，被剥夺了自由的32年了之后呢，那么这个事情已经是给他造成了一个非常大的一个打击，心理上的一种打击了，所以这个是太保个人的一种可以说是一种悲剧了。那么也是他个人的一种牺牲。那么太保跟他的当时的这些同志们呢、伙伴们呢，是对于我们这个国家的早期的这个所谓建国的那个时代呢，是做出了非常大的贡献。但是说起来呢，这个又是新加坡今年庆祝50年建国50年一个非常黑暗的一个这个历史的这一方面，因为呢在新加坡的所谓的新加坡故事，新加坡政府所描绘的这个新加坡的故事里面呢，从来就没有提到这一点。那么他们只会把李光耀推为新加坡的一个好像是神明这样，或者是神话这样，那么我们希望呢，我们期盼做是有那么一天呢，新加坡能够见到一个比较这个平衡的一个历史，把我们的过去呢跟我们的希望呢写出来，那么今天我们在这里呢这个建议这个谢太保这个博士呢来获得这个诺贝尔和平奖呢，希望呢这一点能够打开一条道路呢，让我们新加坡的历史能够重写出来。我想大概就是这样。
谢谢你哦。
Good morning, 大家好. Happy to be here. I will speak mostly about two things. One about the process of nomination, and secondly, I will read out and reveal the contents of the nomination letter. So, as you recall, I had a conversation with Martyn around December 2014. The timing was good because I was on the way for a 1-month fellowship around mid-January to February in Estonia, in Tallinn. Norway is across the Baltics from Tallinn, so I was quite close. So during the month before the deadline of the nomination, I did some research, drafted the letter. Martyn and I in particular were cooperating on the contents of the letter. And on the 27th of January, I emailed the letter of nomination to the Nobel Selection Committee, as well as registered a formal letter through the university to Norway. So, what's involved in nominating someone to the Nobel Peace Prize? As mentioned earlier, it's an international prize. It's been around since 1901. There are 5 areas in which the Nobel Prize is given: in physics, chemistry, physiology, or medicine, literature, and peace. What is the prize? The prize includes a medal, a diploma or a certificate, and a certain sum of money, around 8 million Swedish kroners. There are many names that have won the Nobel Peace Prize, and one of them, of course, is Nelson Mandela. What is the focus, in particular, of the Nobel Peace Prize? Okay, if we look at the second bullet point, we will see there are 4 areas that usually have attracted 4 areas of work that attract the Nobel Peace Prize: arms control and disarmament, peace negotiation or peace process. You heard the issue of Northern Ireland. Democracy and human rights, and work aimed at creating a more peaceful world. Our nomination from Singapore largely centers on the third part, democracy and human rights, but to some extent also peace, and I will explain a little bit further. From the statistics released by the committee, these days we get an average of 250 nominations or submissions of candidates for the prize. And the committee shortlists about 20 to 30 before they decide this month. After the nomination is received, internally they will investigate the nominations. They will also appoint their own consultants to do further research on the individuals who are nominated. And then they reach a decision in October. So who can be nominated? A person or an organization can be nominated. So it's not just a person, but also an organization. And Jee Say mentioned earlier about qualified nominators. So the committee has a certain criteria about who can nominate. First category are mostly from government, from parliaments, international courts, institutes dealing with international law. The second category, where I belong to, include universities, rectors, professors of social science, history, philosophy, law, theology, and also directors of research institutes relating to peace and foreign policy. And of course, winners and board members of the Nobel Peace Prize, and members and former members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee. So, they have certain criteria, and a nomination will only be accepted or made valid if you meet the criteria for nomination. So what does a nomination look like? In case there's somebody from here who wants to nominate somebody. Actually, the nomination process is pretty broad. You indicate the name of the person or the organization, provide an explanation why the individual or the organization is worthy candidate for consideration for the prize, and then who the nominator is, name, title, profession, or institutional affiliation. As we were researching and investigating the nomination process, and also from the communication Jee Say had, you can see that multiple nominations. So even if 100% nominated somebody, it doesn't matter. It doesn't carry extra weight. Usually it's the focus and the significance of the work of the candidate that is being nominated. Now, the facts are this. Dr. Chia has been nominated. We have received confirmation of receipt and registration of our nomination. And if he doesn't win, we will only know his name on the rota or the roster 50 years later in time for SG 100. So I think one of the significance is that while they are putting things in the hole for SG 100, I think this nomination also allows us at SG 100 to have it revealed on the Nobel register. So I think that also adds, forward thinking another 50 years. So over here, I would like to pause and read to you the letter of nomination. And after I read the letter of nomination, our colleague here can translate. So I'll read the letter, but these are the main points. The letter is dated 27 January 2015, some 9 months ago. Dear Sir, I'm writing to nominate Dr. Chia Thye Poh from Singapore for the Nobel Peace Prize. Dr. Chia is a former political prisoner who was arrested in 1966 at the age of 25 and detained without charge or trial for nearly 23 years under Singapore's Internal Security Act. He was subsequently subjected to a range of personal and political restrictions for another 9 years. Interned first on the island of Sentosa, then on the main island of Singapore. He was only released of all restrictions on 27 November 1988 at the age of 57. His total length of incarcerations and restrictions amount to 32 years, more than the 27 years Nelson Mandela was detained. Born in 1941, Dr. Chia graduated in physics from Nanyang University, worked as a secondary school teacher, a graduate assistant, and was a social activist before becoming Barisan Socialist, elected member of the Legislative Assembly for Jurong constituency in 1963 at the age of 22. His detention and restrictions are linked to his role in political activities in the early 1960s. These activities include protests calling for an end to the bombing in Vietnam by the US during the Vietnam War, as well as quitting Parliament to engage in civil disobedience over the Singapore government's split from Malaysia. The People's Action Party, the government of the day, detained Dr. Chia under the Internal Security Act for his lead role in a street procession on 8 October 1966. Its position was Dr. Chia's actions were prejudicial to the stability of Singapore. It is important to note that during this period of Singapore's history and the rise into power of the People's Action Party, the party, through its position in government, used the Internal Security Act to arrest and detain without trial its political opponents. Dr. Chia's detention and restriction of his personal and political rights over a period of 32 years is thus intimately tied to the People's Action Party's use of the ISA and other legal instruments. Under its rule, many have been arrested, detained without trial, and bankrupted through civil lawsuits for their political activities against the ruling People's Action Party and its officials. In part, this has allowed the PAP 50 years of uninterrupted rule as the party in power in Singapore. In 2015, as Singapore celebrates 50 years of independence under the administration of the People's Action Party, contemporary activists continue to be subjected to defamation suits and other legal sanctions as they speak up against the regime. In the case of Dr. Chia, the PAP government had over the years unsuccessfully tried to extract self-implicating statements from him in exchange for his release from detention. However, Dr. Chia had remained steadfast in his resistance to self-incrimination throughout his detention and restrictions of 32 years. Dr. Chia has been a source of inspiration for those who have taken the hard road of speaking up for political and other freedoms in Singapore. A road still fraught with difficulties and challenges. Thus, in a modern city-state like Singapore, where the levers of power, control, and suppression are sophisticated, Dr. Chia's contribution is best assessed for its inspirational political contribution and the energy that it affords current activists. In 1989, when Dr. Chia was in Sentosa, I co-interviewed him for a student newsletter. I was then a second-year undergraduate at NUS. During the interview, Dr. Chia said his motivation in politics was to, quote, struggle for a fair, just, and democratic society, unquote, and while being detained, his main concern is to achieve complete freedom. It has been 25 years ago since I last met him, and since then, I have seen how his struggle in the early 1960s for freedom and the price he paid under the PAP regime is relevant in the context of all the costs those who advocate for political freedom and civil rights continue to pay under the current regime. However, it is also important to note, given the nature of Singapore's politics and its compliant network of elites, the contributions of persons such as Dr. Chia are often vilified and negated by a self-serving narrative constructed and put into place as the absolute truth by the PAP-led government. I'm stepping forward in my capacity as a professor of social science to nominate Dr. Chia, as I feel he's worthy of consideration for the Nobel Peace Prize. His pioneering work of resistance against an authoritarian regime and inspirational continuity marked by the sacrifices he made by enduring decades-length incarceration and restrictions are prime examples. To this, we also need to include the psychological scars he continues to weather in silence post-detention. Dr. Chia, born in 1941, is presently 74 years old, and his last known professional affiliation is with the Institute of Social Studies, The Hague, Denmark. In 2011, he was conferred the Lim Lian Giok Spirit Award in Malaysia. I list at this end of a letter a set of references that contain more information on Dr. Chia for the consideration of the Norwegian Nobel Committee. Yours sincerely, James Gomez. So that's the letter. several more slides. If I can get it working. It's okay. So where are we now? This is so the nomination was sent on 27th January 2015, and as we well know the calendar of activities that the Peace Prize will be announced on 9th of October. So we decided that closer to this announcement, I will write and seek for confirmation. So based on the discussions with the other two colleagues, on 17 September, I sent an email request to the committee for the confirmation of the nomination. And the next day, the director, Olaf Nordstad, wrote to me confirming in his words the nomination letter has been received and registered. In preparation for these activities, we then made the nomination public. These days we use a lot of new media and social media. So we announced after the three of us agreed that we'll have this activity in Singapore today. We set up a Facebook page on 29th September and announced it to the media. And today we have this, and just in 3-4 days you can see that the Facebook page is growing fast. We have a lot of likes and the reach is quite good. And people have started contributing just for something that was set up only 3 days ago. And just moments ago, another colleague has released all the information that you have heard today together with a simple press release globally. So we have released it globally, and we'll see how that carries forward. To end, I think we need to reflect on the significance of the nomination. The nomination was done, and I think this is the theme, is to recognize the past and contemporary contributions and sacrifices of people like Dr. Chia Thye Poh and many others who have contributed to Singapore. To highlight the other side, the other Singapore. I mean, we often hear only one type of Singapore, the other Singapore, as we celebrate 50 years of our own independence, and to bring balance and perspective to the construction of modern day Singapore. And also to outline to members of the public what the Nobel Peace Prize is all about and how a nomination can take place, so that this can be an instrument not only for Singaporeans but also for the region. As part of the nomination process, I did a review of the nominees. So the nominees that have been, since 1901 are publicly available up to 1963. And I reviewed the list of those nominees. Not many from our part of the world, and it still continues to be so. And I think a nomination from Singapore, or at least the discussion of a nomination from Singapore, may create a kind of awareness, not only for us in Singapore, but also around Southeast Asia and beyond. So I'll stop here, and if there was a colleague who was going to say something in Putonghua, Chinese. So,
哦，对不对？
我方有主持。
刚才这位先生讲的很长，那么我不可能全部都翻译过来了，我就是把这个简要的这个译出来了。他说这个提名呢，为这个奖而提名的呢，是在今年的1月27号就已经送上去了，送上去给这个诺贝尔和平奖的这个委员会了。那么这个和平奖呢，是自从1901年开始呢，就已经有了，就是建立了这个和平奖。那么有很多人是拿到了这个和平奖的了。 但是来自我们这个区域的呢，就是亚洲、东南亚这个区域的这个提名者呢是被提名者呢是少之又少的，所以他就说这次为代表做这个提名呢的其中一个意义呢，也是能够使到说我们这个地区的更多的人都能够了解到这个诺贝尔和平奖的这个东西的存在，那么同时也能够激励更多的人呢，这个和平做出贡献呢。其他的一个意义呢，就是说这个提名呢，也能够使到今年就是新加坡庆祝这个建国50年，也能够使到新加坡的人民呢知道说，新加坡还有另外一边的故事的。那么这个故事是非常重要的，也这个故事绝对不能够让我们大家忘记的。那么刚才这位教授呢，他也提出说，在今年9月29号那一天呢，他是对不起，这个之前9月17号那天呢，他就这个写了一个电邮呢到这个委员会那边去，要他们确认说他们已经收到了这个申请了，因为这个申请是1月27号已经送上去的，要他们确认那么那边第2天呢就回复说他们已经收到了这个申请，同时也已经做了这个有关的这个登记的工作了。刚才他有讲到说太保是在太保是坐牢坐了23年的牢，那么后来9年呢是一种软禁的方式呢，软禁在这个圣淘沙这个地方呢，所以他失去自由的时间呢，就是整个是32年，那么比曼德拉这个所谓世界上的这个坐牢最久的一个人物呢，还要久。因为曼德拉只不过是坐了27年的这个牢而已。那么太保呢是在1941年出生的，他曾经被选为玉兰区的国会议员，但是中选了之后呢，还是逃不出李光耀的这个设下的鬼门关，还是被拉进了这个将义监牢。太保过去在1960年代的时候呢，是进行很多这个学生的这个活动、学生运动。后来呢，他就自从南大物理系毕业之后呢，他就担任了物理系的助教。后来他就参政。那么后来他也参加了这个新加坡国会的这个所谓这个杯葛国会的这个行动了。那么在1966年10月8号这一天呢，他就被逮捕了。那么他是在这个所谓内部治安法令之下呢，被逮捕。那么这个是新加坡的一个最黑暗的一个时期。好，我想大体上就是这样的。好的，谢谢。
A big round of applause for Tong for graciously stepping forward to help translate the last minute.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think some of you would like to say something in remembrance of, to remember the occasion, and some of you may have certain questions to ask. You may want to ask the questions, but just a matter of clarification. Sometimes how come Nobel Peace Prize announcement come from Norway, sometimes come from Sweden and all that. Let me just explain to you. Last time, Norway was part of the Kingdom of Sweden, very long time ago. So when Alfred Nobel gave the Peace Prize, gave the Nobel Award, he decided that the Peace Prize should go to Stockholm, to Oslo. Oslo is the capital of Norway now, all right? And Stockholm is the capital of Sweden. That's why you find the ceremony is held in Stockholm. Medicine, physics, chemistry, literature, they are all in Stockholm. But the Peace Prize is special, is in Oslo, Norway. And it was part of Sweden. Then Norway became separate, independence. It's a complicated history so far. So that is why Norway continues to give the Peace Prize, and they have Norwegian Nobel Institute, and they also have the Nobel Institute, which is in Stockholm. So that is just one point of clarification. Why sometimes come from Norway to Sweden, okay? So, but it's all set up by the same person, Alfred Nobel. All right. You want to say something?
Yes.
Okay.
I will just speak off the cuff. 刚才陈汝士先生他提到这个诺贝尔奖金的提名的过程，很重要的一点，提名人士不是简单普通你我能够可以就写一封信去就可以提名，提名的要求是政府或者政府部门或者一个政府部长或者一个大学教授才有这个基本的资格可提名的，因为这一点还没有讲到。陈宇士先生他幸好碰到那个 Mr. Newstead 在挪威，他就向这位诺贝尔的委员说，亚洲的和平奖没有人拿到过。他说：“我可以提李光耀先生吗？”但是马上那个挪威的那位 Mr. Newstead 就说：“不行啊，不行啊，因为他主要的重要点是，他讲每一次都是讲亚洲价值观，对我们来讲，这种亚洲价值观，我们很轻视这种的，这个可见的，因为这一点没有关系。鲁士先生，你不介意我把这个讲一番吧？好，就是这样，我就是令大家会体会到这个重要性。还是刚刚我在这里。我自己个人发表一张支持陈汝士先生的自己的发言，如果你们要一份的，谁要一份？我信，我这个是我个人的，也不是代表这里。
Are there any questions from the floor?
Any questions that you want James or myself to answer, to clarify? And also, while you are still at it, I think I will pass an envelope around. If you feel like it, you make some donations to defray the expenses here. Alright? So, I start from the corner. You can donate a few dollars, a few cents, so that we can defray the expenses, okay? Don't feel compelled, okay? It's your kind of sense of public duty also to contribute something to an event, not just to come and attend and to speak, but also make it possible. All right, may I just second one? I give it to him first, okay? Afterwards you.
对不起，老师。Right, I'm Andy. 天地有真气，宜人为浩然吧。Chia Thye Poh，我记得在78年、79年，我在念书的时候，我在德光岛遇到他。加上 Dr. James 有提到他在圣淘沙，以前叫布拉干马蒂节后岛，他被软禁在那个圣淘沙，过后因为圣淘沙发展一个tourist interest。他们就移到德光岛。德光岛那边有一个那个叫Kampung Pematang，那边有一个鬼屋，他就被软禁在那个Kampung Pematang鬼屋的隔壁。后来德光岛被征为那个军事的用处，infantry training for the crew。他把它移到那个小德光岛，那个 small Pratikongkachi. And because of the international Changi airport moved to Changi, from Paya Lebar to Changi, Pratikongkachi also been used as a aviation radar, okay, island, and they got no choice moving back to Singapore. And that's why just now I mentioned about 天地有真气，人体相信的，我不会整首诗啊。Okay, just for sharing. Thank you, Dr. James and Mr. Tan.
See, even after freeing him from Changi to go to Sentosa, they humiliated him by putting him next to a place known for ghosts, haunted flowers. Terrible, this man.
谢谢。请问一下，今天这个提名者是不是也可以提到新加坡国会里面去？是不是也可以提成做一个议程？谢谢。
都这位先生说，我们可不可以去新加坡的国会提名什么？提谢代表。如果我们需要有一个国会议员有这种诚意、勇气，在新加坡会提名。如果我被中选，我就会去那国会。但是这次我失掉机会，但是不要不要失望。我们还有工人党吗？你们认识了？你们好多人是以前是摄政的党员啊，去参加他们啊，给他们压力啊，叫他们去国会提名提这个谢代表，可以吗？要不然选他们进国会做什么？哎。So can we nominate? Can we go to the Singapore Parliament to nominate Dr. Chia Thye Poh? Yes. Somebody, a member, must propose a motion. That member must be member of Parliament. So we must get a member of Parliament. Who from the PAP will nominate Dr. Chia? You only get opposition. But if I had been elected, I would definitely go in and propose. But unfortunately. But you still have Workers' Party.
Yes.
And Workers' Party was merged out of the Barisan Socialist people going to form. With Dr. Lee Sin Cho forming JBJ in 1980, 1986, 87, and then make Workers' Party very strong with the grassroots support. Otherwise, Workers' Party would not have been so strong without the support of the Barisan Socialists and the lab members, right? Since they are there, make use of them. Tell them to nominate. But Parliament not yet open. After elections, still not yet open. So, but if it's open this week, why not? The Nobel Committee, I don't think they have decided yet the final winner. They probably decide they wait until the last day. They might have decided who it is already, but they won't. It is still not final until it's announced. Until it's announced. Because last minute there can always be a change of mind. Somebody find object, this fellow did something wrong in the past. So they want to disgrace the Nobel Committee, so they will withdraw. Or somebody say, oh, this guy has done a lot more. So they will wait until the last minute. This is what happens. In fact, if you Google Nobel Prize 2015 now, you'll find there's quite a bit of controversy now by a lot of controversy who should be nominated. Somebody objected to nomination of Obama before and all that. So a lot of controversy. Someone in PAP wants to object, they will object nomination of Dr. Chia also, but they keep quiet. So, okay, so anybody else who wants to speak up?
I would like to say something. I note the key points by Dr. Gomez. So this point that I would like to make is that I think there was, at one point, he was the world's greatest recipient of electric shocks done to him. And Lee Kuan Yew himself admitted once that he sat through a glass door after an electric shock treatment, and then he showed a video of the fall of the USSR and communist states, and then he sat outside the glass door to watch his expression. And he says that Chia Thye Poh showed a very grim expression, very sad visage, which showed that he had not changed his mind and that they could not change his mental attitudes. And therefore, he decided that he needs to be in there for much longer. So this was by his own admission, and I don't know if the Nobel Peace Prize committee are aware of the electric shocks applied to him.
Where did you get this information from?
I can't remember, but I'm trying to research that. He admitted it, and that made such an impact on me as a young girl, that there's a person who was receiving electric shocks on a regular basis.
Sorry. Let us clarify this very serious allegation.
I know.
As far as I know, Martyn speaking from behind here. Chia was never physically abused. However, he was sent to several periods of solitary confinement. Now, not all ISA detainees were physically abused. Some, for example, the long-term detainees, Dr. Poh Kai, Dr. Lee Hong Siu, Zahari, they were not physically abused, but they were subjected to mental and psychological abuse and subjected to threats against their families. Now, referring to Lee Kuan Yew's speech on Dr. Chia, I think he made that speech, just before he handed over his reins to Mr. Chok sometime in 89 or 1990. He did mention that Dr. Chia was watched through the CCTV every minute of the day, and whenever they give Dr. Chia a newspaper to read, and when it comes to news of China or any news of communism decline, he would show signs of agitation or show signs of being upset. So there was no mention by Lee Kuan Yew during that speech of Dr. Chia receiving any sorts of electrical treatment. Yeah, I just need to clarify that. Thank you.
Sorry, are you a researcher or university researcher?
No, I researched into that, but I'll look more into it.
If you can give us quote the source, but that's a very interesting point that the subjection to electric shock, but it must be verified. Okay, please.
我是一个前南大同学啦，在南大的时候呢，我根本不认识谢太保，但是呢，关于他所作所为啊，我都听到很多，看到很多，有没有？所以大概几年前他家里面亲人去世的时候，有没有？他就新加坡政府允许他回来守丧，大概1个星期啊。那么有2个晚上，我跟一个妇科医生，新加坡的著名的妇科医生，他要求我带他去见他，但是我也不懂这是在哪里。好在我早报里面有朋友，有没有？他们把地址告诉我，所以有2个晚上，一个是跟医生，一天是跟医生，妇科医生，还有第二个是另外一位同学。当我见到他的时候呢，我感到很惊奇，有没有？他一直不带要讲话。那么我讲，如果以我个人来讲啊，被关了这么久啊，你一定恨透了李光耀，有没有？他怎么答我呢？他讲我不恨什么人，我只是不喜欢、不同意他所做的事情。他一点恨都没有，有没有？这个真的使我真的是感动到回家我都要哭出来了。他对李光耀都没有恨，一个坐到他关了32年的人啊，还不懂得恨，有没有？所以这个是很不寻常的。他讲我只是不同意他们的政策，我对他个人来讲我没有恨，有没有？所以他就是他伟大的一个地方。那么当天来讲呢，我也审次跟他说，你把你的被关的整个经过啊，能够写下来，你不必去找人，我来替你负责印刷费、编排费、出版费，全部由我来处理的。他很感谢我，但是他没有回答我这个问题，有没有？所以我就感到我这个人呢，
那么他讲你到底是南大哪一班的？我讲我当时南大我也不认识你，当然我知道他是谁，有没有？那么他就后来好在他一个弟弟，不知道弟弟还是哥哥起来讲话，他讲这个啊，他曾经在我的店里面做过工的，他的弟弟，有没有？所以把他这个是好人一个，有没有？你放心跟他讲。但是我一直跟他讲，我想跟你出书，有没有？只要你把你个人的一些经历写下来，有没有？他是没有回答我这个问题的。那么回来之后，我一直在思考这个问题。我也打一个电话给在香港的一个在华中的同学，跟他曾经在一起关在一起的一个同学，有没有？问他到底是为什么他这么沉默，这么冷静，没有？他在香港的时候也住在他的家，他性格上有一点改变了，所以我就觉得这个不寻常啊，因为他冷静到真的很出奇，没有反应也比较迟钝，你知道，我就把这个信单，我是讲可能那就是吃了药或者是曾经里面动过慢性手术，你知道，我就猜疑，这个是我猜测的，不是我，你看，所以我就对他呢。这个问题我一直在思考，没有这么一个好人，你哦，这么一个为同学做事情啊，关了你32年啊，还不懂得恨的人啊，我真的这个世界上要去找这种伟人啊，实在太难找了，太难找了。这是我的一些感受。
So, translation, my understanding, this is a Nanta student graduate, but he didn't know who Chia Thye Poh was, not the same year. So one day after release, he met with Dr. Chia because Dr. Chia was allowed to come back for the death of a relative. So the funeral of a relative. So he asked him, why don't you hate Lee Kuan Yew who imprisoned you for 32 years? He said, no, I don't know what is hatred. I don't hate him. I only disagree with the way he did things. I don't hate him. I said, why don't you put down your experiences in writing? I will take care of all the publication costs and all that. He said, no, there is no need to write about this sort of thing. So I don't know what hatred is. So that about sums up what he's going to say. What he said. Anything else?
Gentleman from the back here, like.
Yeah, please come.
Theo, I think I'm very happy to be here and see what's happening. I belong to the pioneer generation, and from the 60s all that, we've seen what has happened in Singapore. And the last SG50 tells us something that the success of Singapore is not the PAP alone, it's the people of Singapore. Yeah. I always tell people that what is achieved today, the people pay the highest price, which they don't know. It is not just the money, economy, everything. It is the quality of life and the real world of justice and democracy. So it is very good that this has happened, and I have no clue how well we do in the Nobel Prize nomination. But what is more meaningful here is that it's the awakening of Singapore people. We must recognize history. A lot of things was never told or published. So, for using the Zheng Qi Ge used by our friend here, there is 3 phrases in Zheng Qi Ge Wen Qing Xiang, which is really appropriate to Xie Thye Poh先生. I use it in Chinese. As a person, they started with 贫贱不能移 never beaten by property. 富贵不能取 never taken by money. 威武不能取富贵不能赢 you never taken by all the things. So it is representing a character of a person. So I would hope this will go well, but it is about time that Singaporeans started to be more careful about what the history really is. So I really congratulate you for doing this. Thank you.
The sad thing about history in Singapore in the books is that there is only one history. There is only his story. And it's in the books that our children read. And it's just continue
the same story. Sometimes I go through the social studies books of my children. It's about PAP, it's about Lee Kuan Yew, and how great they were. Just their side of the story, no other side. That is why the young people grew up knew only one thing. You know, it's like North Korea, China, Communist China, everyday propaganda, propaganda. Until when somebody died, you suddenly, oh, remember him and all that. So, you know, it's something like that. It's propaganda. It has happened in Hitler's Germany, in North Korea, in Communist China. All these things happen. We need a breakthrough to change that history. When that breakthrough will come about, we don't know. But it will come. It will come unexpectedly. One day it will come. There is nothing, no need to prepare, but just keep yourself alert to it. Anything else? That man has, your poetry, I don't know how to translate. But it's basically no money can buy, you know? Money cannot buy this sort of soul. Yeah, money can buy soul.
We will take the last few comments or questions.
Yeah. Any more? Any questions you want to ask? You want to ask why we do this and all that? What do we gain from this?
我想讲的是我在圣淘沙看过真的亲眼看过那个谢太保见过面哈，然后其实最辛苦的不是他自己，最辛苦的是他的父母亲，而且同时我也去过他家，我看到了他，我也跟他聊过天，但是呢，从我最尊敬的一位那个政治人物，其实就是他。其实他刚才那位女士所讲的东西呢，他曾经也跟我透露过一些他本身的一些问题的存在点，尤其是在内部安全法里头。所以啊，希望那个Martyn啊，更加的深入的跟他了解一下，他曾经发生过什么样的状况，身体怎么样的受伤，不止心灵受伤，是父母都曾经受伤的。我每次看到他、想到他的时候，我会感动的，很激动的，会流眼泪的，好像那位南大的那个校友一样。我虽然不是男大生，我还很年轻，但是我曾经是在圣淘沙，他住在哪里呢？他住在 Fox 楼上。他曾经也寄过信给我，那个明信片给我，我还有跟他那个联络的时候，但是我现在也是生病了，所以也不便讲，所以我很尊重他，希望大家分析哦，希望你可以更加多了解他曾经在里面内部安全法令里头发生了什么事情，这是不为所人所知的另一面，好不好？谢谢你们。
Okay, you want to speak?
好，我们今天这个是新闻发布会，究竟今天是不是有一些媒体的朋友来这里采访？会不会把它写到我们明天的报纸上面？我希望见到个公平的一面的啊！你们可以支持行政党，但是不能够反对别人的看法 ，OK？
Anybody else？ 还有没有其他的人要讲
？Another comment from the gentleman.
Mr. Tan, just share with you. You mentioned about putting this as a motion in the parliament. I can't promise you anything. I'm not a Workers' Party member, but I'm a personal friend of Chan Soma. So when I get to see him, I will definitely get this to Dr. Tiao as well. That of course it will be a challenge for them whether they will raise a motion. I cannot promise you, but I promise you that I will get the words through.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think even if there is no debate, the very fact that the motion is registered, that is good enough. It must be the record, the Hansard, the record says that so and so member put forward a motion to nominate, to what? To rejoice over the nomination or to support the nomination of Dr. Chia Thye Poh for the Nobel Peace Prize. Alright? If they say it's too late for 2015, next year we can re-nominate Dr. Chia again and Parliament we will never give an excuse for any member of Parliament not to do his duty. Anything else? Anyone wants to speak? Yeah.
Thank you. 刚才还有 Dr. James Gomez 有提到一点，不知道大家领会到。他说，这次提名的过程，如果谢太保先生不中奖的话，他的名还是在那个诺贝尔的提名列上。这个呢也有一个意思，因为50年后，这个诺贝尔委员就会把这个名单公开来，刚刚好切好我们新加坡 SG 100年的纪念，刚刚好。我希望就是 Dr. James Gomez 说，50年后，新加坡人也会知道谢太保的名声。谢谢。
Just a quick translation. This time Mr. Kwan said, Dr. James Gomez said it well. We want next time, because the Nobel Committee will not release the list of nominations for another 50 years. When it is released 50 years, it's SG 100 and we can celebrate again. But I don't think I'll be around. Neither will James be around. Next generation, okay, alright. Yeah.
Any last comments or questions?
Okay.
Yeah. Other than political party to nominate, to bring this into parliament for debate, can the individual or a group like you bring this up and let it be debated in parliament?
No, only a member of parliament can bring it up. We can't. Nobody else. Okay? You must not just speak to Mr. Chen Shomao, you speak to everyone, member of parliament, from the Workers' Party, of course. Right? So, it depends on whether Chen Shomao will take it up with the party or with Mr. Lau Tia Pian. So, if he doesn't do that, it stops there. So, you must go to the leader, Mr. Lau Tia Pian. And he will give you an answer whether he will do it. Alright, anybody else? I just want to, if there's nothing else, do you want any closing remarks or? Okay, I want to have a bit of a, I just want to say, just an update, then I'll go back to the final.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know that the media release is sent out successfully to all the media lists globally. Everything is now updated here on the Facebook page, so if you need information you want to share, please go ahead. I also took the opportunity to send the release to all the Chinese media in Hong Kong, Taiwan and mainland China as well. I had advice from a student of mine from mainland China, and he said even though they may not carry, but they will know. That's very important, I think.
Maybe you should send to every member of parliament in Singapore.
Yes.
Hopefully all the members of parliament will read the news.
Well, I think the news may not be published in Singapore's papers. It's only on Facebook. Maybe just send to them. I send two things to every member of parliament before the election on important things. So it doesn't matter even if they don't reply. None of them reply. It doesn't matter. We just want to register that this thing has happened. We have kept you informed. You cannot plead ignorance in future. You are a member of parliament. You do your job. This is something that has happened. You know it. You cannot say you are ignorant of it. All right? Put the responsibility back to the members of parliament. You know? they are paid by you, you better make sure that you get value for your money.
Just one question. Just now you mentioned that you will most probably not be published in our Singapore newspaper. So was the mainstream media invited to this event? The local mainstream media, or it wasn't invited?
I think that was a remark made in jest. I think some of them are present here and everybody was kept informed. And even before this activity, they contacted us asking for more information about the event.
Yeah, we did release it to the local press as well. It's just my remark that maybe they may not publish it, maybe they will, you know. We only saw Thye Poh here, but I don't know about. Yeah, China News Asia did contact me also, ask me about the thing. And I contact James as well, so I don't know. Before we close, I just want to leave you with this remark. This nomination for Dr. Chia Thye Poh is not just about Dr. Chia Thye Poh. It's about everyone in his generation, those who have been detained under ISA and those who have fought for Singapore in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, I don't know anyone, in the 21st century. Whoever, he is a symbol. We have chosen him to nominate because this is our best chance of getting the attention of the Nobel Committee. We can say, Nobel Committee, you made a mistake when you said Nelson Mandela was the longest serving political prisoner. Here is somebody who served longer than Nelson Mandela. So, it is one way of correcting the mistake. In fact, I suspect that when news of Nelson Mandela was released, it sent some kind of a chill to the Singapore government. They make all ways of trying to release it before 27 years. So after they released it to Sentosa, but after in 23 years, so they don't want him to have the record of the longest serving political prisoner. But they still kept him, they being they were, you know, they kept him longer for 32 years. So on record, Dr. Chia Thye Poh is the longest serving political prisoner in the world today. And no attempt to change this history will succeed. Even you put him out of Changi to send him to Sentosa, he was still in prison. You cannot, there was no freedom. What is the definition of prison? You just kept him away from the world. Alright? That is imprisonment. 32 years, the longest in the world. This is another Singapore's record.
Sorry, I just want to clarify because I have some direct access to this information. In 1989, when I was in NUS and I was going to interview him, before I interviewed him, I wrote to the ISD. When I was second year NUS, I wrote to the ISD asking for permission to interview him since he was a political prisoner. I received a letter back from the ISD saying that he's not a political prisoner, he's free. Yes. So all I'm trying to say is they have their own definition and interpretation of detention. So in 1989, when I wrote to him, they said, you can go because he's a free man. So I just want you to bear in mind how they would respond when you state he was a detainee for 32 years. So that's why even in the Nobel Prize nomination letter, I was careful to say that he was 23 years in detention, 9 years of political restrictions, both in places like Pulau Belakang Mati, Sentosa, as well as on the mainland, but summing it up as 32 years of suppression of rights under the ISA. So, you know, it's just a technical point, but just to be clear.
I'm glad for your clarification, James.
On what grounds do they say that it's free?
If I recall, I mean, that was 25 years ago, is that he's no longer behind a traditional cell. a jail cell. Yeah.
Some of you who are married also say you are imprisoned in the house too. But that's a different kind of imprisonment. But anyway, I think I'm very thankful to James for this clarification, because I was still in government in the 80s when all this thing happened. You know, I can feel something was going on. So they tried to obliterate the record that he was still a prisoner after Nelson Mandela has been released. But as you know, from what James has said, they tried. But as far as we're concerned, he was still imprisoned by PAP, by the government, by LKY, until he was finally released in 1998, 32 years from 1966. Dr. Chia Thye Poh was arrested in 1966, all right, after he has become an MP and he has was elected an MP in 1963. So I just want to leave you with these thoughts that we are not trying to make him into a superhero. Of course, he is a hero. He's a great man in that respect, once in a lifetime hero. But we highlighted him because we want to maximize get the attention of the Nobel Committee. But it doesn't mean that the rest of the detainees, he represents a generation of detainees who fought for Singapore, who fought for all of us, so that today we can have peace and prosperity here. And their contribution should be acknowledged rather than denied or even ignored. So maybe we can give a round of applause to all these people. Okay, I will end this here unless somebody wants to continue. Okay.
Just now you talk about the last 9 years of political restriction. Then there was the blur area of whether he was considered free or he wasn't. So would you like to elaborate more about the 9-year restriction? Like what?
Most of the restrictions in 9 years were surrounding his movement, mostly for outside of the country, leaving Singapore, as well as participation in political activities like attending a forum or being a member of a political party and standing for elections. So it was largely around his movement and his political activities. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming. 谢谢你们的到来。There is some cash contribution here. We can all, if you like, can adjourn to a place to have some chicken rice. I think we have some money here. We have to pay for the rental of this place, you know. But I think there might be some more left over for the payment, and then we can use it to eat chicken rice or whatever if you want.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Can I have your permission that those who donated, that the extra can be used to pay for chicken rice? Anybody object? Sorry? Kopi O. Kopi O, okay. Kopi O on me.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. For those who are interested with chicken rice, you can go down to Burmese Street. We can walk to a coffee shop that is empty, maybe Yam Kong or Ching Ching or whatever. Okay, we can go there.
Hey, Ask him permission to release the note.
I will tell him, he's free to do anything, no? Right now, okay, just do it. Okay?
Go to Yangon in Publicity.
Not that you're there.
Can't we say we sit down?
Come on. 我真没有说法。
Yeah. You want to join us for lunch?
Sorry?
I'm just stopping you because we want to chat. You want to join us for lunch?
Okay, sure.
Service Street, yeah, come on.
Okay.
Jee Say, I'm
We can talk, discuss how to move forward.
Okay.
Then we can meet up.